The Tzimisce are the soul of the Sabbat, and have been since its foundation. The Fiends of Transylvania have a long and bloody history, and, like the La Sombra, are known to have slain their antediluvian. And it is with their founder, the eldest, we shall begin. It is not known what the original name of the Tzimisce Antediluvian was, but it is said that before its embrace it was a seer and a sorcerer. Its sire, Enosh, or Enoch, chose this mortal to become a vessel to be destroyed. Some scholars argue that all of Enosh's darkest predilections, and in fact even his beast itself, was contained in the eldest, while others contest that it was instead all that made him more than mortal. Semantics, perhaps, but regardless of intention, the eldest at first showed no signs of being any different than the others of the third generation, at least not outwards. Already in its early years, the eldest is said to have been a masterful crafter of the flesh, so much in fact that some Tzimisce elders claim that Arikel, the Toreador Antediluvian, achieved her transcendent beauty only through the eldest's fleshcrafting, and that Absimiliard, the Nosferatu Antediluvian's horrible visage, was likewise crafted by the eldest. In the Antediluvian was a great longing for change, for evolution, and it saw in its siblings a complete and utter lack of this same desire. They were dead, spiritually stagnant, and the eldest swore not to let the same fate befall it. Suffice to say, the eldest never felt much kinship with the others of its generation, and it soon left to travel the world in search for a deeper understanding of it. It knew that the hunger it already felt would only grow and grow until nothing but the blood of its own progeny could sustain it. Wishing to avoid this fate, the eldest assumed many forms, traveled the lands, the skies, and even the depth of the ocean, all in search of some way to transcend this vampiric curse. It was during this time that the eldest began to sire. It was not out of a need for companionship, nor for any other human reasons. The eldest wanted more eyes and hands to explore the world, although it consumed its first child, Galad, in a fit of hunger frenzy, and did so from afar, a hint at the power the eldest would have over all its descendants. It learned from this lesson, and from then on constantly traveled with an entourage of mortals, in order to sate its hunger should it need to. The eldest sired many more during its travels, seeking minds as inquisitive and open to change as its own. One of those chiller, Yorak, came from the Transylvanian region of the Carpathian Mountains, and that is ultimately where the eldest settled, and found and communed with an ancient spirit known as Kupala. It is not known who or what the Kupala is, but no other being, save perhaps the eldest itself, has so thoroughly shaped the history of the clan Tzimisce. Kupala had been trapped beneath the Carpathians by the lupines of the area a long time ago, and was believed to be either a powerful worm creature, an earthbound demon, or perhaps something far worse. Regardless, Kupala's influence over the land could not be denied, and the eldest aided this being in exchange for knowledge, and it is believed that Koldunic Sorcery sees its origin from this exchange. Some say that the eldest helped free Kupala from its prison, but it must then still somehow be bound to the Carpathians, as its influence yet permeates the area. All of this, of course, happened even before the Great Flood that destroyed the first city and spread the other clans across the world. By this time, however, the Tzimisce had long since established a foothold in the Carpathians, and thus were perhaps not even involved in the destruction of the second generation. If that is the case, many wonder where the clan weakness of Tzimisce comes from, as they are forced to always rest with at least 2 handfuls of soil from a place of importance to their mortal selves. Many Tzimisce argue that this is in fact indicative of their interwoven fate with Kupala, who is bound to the earth. But this theory has come under scrutiny, seeing as there are Tzimisce who have never set their foot in the Carpathians, and thus need soil from places far from the corrupting influence of Kupala. As the flood drowned the lands, the Carpathians became islands, each ruled by Tzimisce Voivodes. In return for providing hospitality to fleeing mortals, the Fiends demanded tithes in children, either to experiment on or to have as servants, or both. This habit, which sometimes resulted in entire families being offered as libations, would eventually see the creation of the revenant bloodlines, some still in existence to this day. Eventually the waters receded and the lands were once again populated by migrating kine and vampires. The Tzimisce saw much of their land claimed by others, and although they warred against these new arrivals, their unwillingness to cooperate with each other saw them lose many of the verdant valleys that had resurfaced. Not too long after the flood's recession, the Salubri Samiel gathered many like-minded warriors to his banner in order to fight a great evil. It turns out that this evil was the eldest itself, confused perhaps to be of demonic origin, or at least a worshipper of such things. The Children of the Draken, a monastic order of fiends seeking salvation through vicissitude as taught by the Draken, another of the eldest childer, say that when the Antediluvian was destroyed by Samuel, it was immediately reborn in the belly of the Draken, who bore and birthed it, delivering it to Yorak, who in turn placed it deep within the bowels of the Carpathian Mountains. There, Kupala exacted its corrupting influence on the eldest for centuries. While many of the clan in turn ascended to new heights in Koldunic Sorcery due to this chain of events, the Children of the Draken refuse to this day to study the art of Koldun, knowing full well from whence it comes. This, in turn, is contrasted by many of the old clan, who themselves avoid employing vicissitude, in fear that this will only strengthen the grip the Antediluvian has on their flesh and soul. They, perhaps not wrongly, believe that vicissitude germinates the Antediluvian's seed in their blood, eventually preparing them for reunion through the flesh. While Yorak had little interest in the outside world and was much more inclined to tend to his underground cathedral of flesh, a massive and ever-growing mecca to the study of metamorphosis, and constructed from exactly what you think it was, he did come to realize that he and his fellow fiends had little understanding of the rapidly changing currents of mortal politics. As Rome fell, Yorak parleyed with the Gangrel and Bruja, offering them safe passage through the Tihuta Pass if they in return incited war with the Roman settlements that had claimed much of the formerly Tzimisce-owned lands. This was done, and the fiends could reclaim the lands they had lost. All the while Triglav, another child of the eldest and loyal to Yorak, embraced the Slav Shagra, who, even while mortal, was worshipped as a goddess and mystic by her people. The embrace was sanctioned by Yorak as a political move, fearing that if he had embraced her, the other Methuselah would turn on him in jealousy. Lambach Ruthven, who you might remember would later come to the aid of the Anarchs in breaking their blood bond, was infuriated by this, as he too wanted to embrace Shagra. With Shagra came a new breed of fiends, nobles, tacticians, merchants, all who could outwit the encroaching Ventru in their own game. Radu Bistri, Vladimir Rustovich, and, indeed, Dracula were some of these newly embraced. This shift turned out to be what saved the fiends, for while they were fractioned and prone to infighting, the Hungarian, and even earlier Roman, Ventru were not. And speaking of trouble cooperating, the Tremere, a house of mages, were found to have stolen the secret of vampirism from the Tzimisce, and Rustovich immediately went to war against them in retaliation. Had the entire clan unified behind him, surely the fledgling Tremere would have been wiped out, but they did not, and the Omen War that followed saw the death of countless Cainites and the Tzimisce severely weakened. Also, in the early 13th century, Jürgen of Magdeburg, child of the elder Ventru Hardestad, led an invasion into the Tzimisce territory, which forced Rustovich into another war. Aided by their Tremere allies, the Ventru claimed much land from the Tzimisce before they were fought to a standstill. All the while elders of the Tzimisce embraced scores of new Cainites to do their bidding, throwing them against the enemy. Unsurprising then that the flames of rebellion was lit in the bitter hearts of these fledglings. During this time, the Draken, who had grown tired of the endless wars and destruction, sought death as he no longer felt he had anything to live for. Instead, he was consumed by his sire, the eldest, who subsequently raped and impregnated Maikavikos with the essence of the dragon, corrupting him with his great-grandsire's destructive worldview. And finally, Lugoi Bloodbreaker and Velia the Flayer gathered like-minded Tzimisce on the eve of Kupala's night, revealing to them the sacred fire flower of Kupala, and through it the blood bond shattered. Not long after that, Lugoi led his followers deep beneath the Cernog monastery, where the eldest rested, and there he drained its body. Few of those there that night have not suffered the final death by today, but one of them, Lambach Ruthven, was there. Lambach, despite his obvious age and power, still wandered the Sabbat territories, seemingly consumed by fear and paranoia, and to dull his mind he feeds almost exclusively on drunks and addicts. And he knows what truly transpired in that crypt. In my next episode, we will discuss the Tzimisce after the formation of the Sabbat, some key players and factions, as well as clan culture. I would like to thank my loyal neonates, as well as the Ancile Edward Reed and Colin Gifford for their continued support. And thank you for watching. Be safe out there, for Gehenna may soon be upon us.